Welcome to Unload and Show Clear, powered by Match Shark. Listener ready? Stand by.
Welcome to another episode of Unload and Show Clear, a podcast about the men and women who compete in IDPA matches around the world. I'm your host, Lloyd Bailey. IDPA, International Defensive Pistol Association, was formed out of the concealed carry movement in the United States back in the late 1990s, based on the founders' desire for a sport based on real-world defensive skills and not fancy equipment. IDPA matches are a series of stages that are based on realistic defensive scenarios and a test of a shooter's gun handling, accuracy, speed, and problem-solving skills. Men and women from around the world compete in IDPA every week, and here on Unload and Show Clear, we introduce you to some of those people. Everyday people. We talk one-on-one about their careers, about how they got into guns. We're interested in people and not in politics. The people who make IDPA great. They're not professional athletes. They're just everyday men and women, your neighbors, your coworkers, your public servants, your kids' teachers, the people who clean your teeth. And you're going to meet one of those great people today. And for 2020, Unload and Show Clear is powered by Match Shark. If you watch videos from the 2019 IDPA World Championship, for example, you'll see shooters who had to deal with the discomfort of shooting in sometimes heavy rain. Now, if you were at that match or with me at the 2019 Arkansas State match, you know how much fun shooting a match in the rain can be. Pasting and scoring targets is even more fun. You can't see the scoring zones, the pasters don't stick, the targets eventually disintegrate. Contrast the Arkansas State targets to the World Championship targets, and there was a huge difference, and that difference was Match Shark. Match Shark's patent-pending target shields keep targets dry even in heavy rain. They are reusable. The cost of the shields is quickly recovered by simply patching and reusing the shields over and over again. That reduces the number of times the targets have to be replaced too, and it makes your staff happier because setup and scoring and teardown are easier. It also makes the shooters happier because they can see the targets and they can easily paste them. Designed and manufactured right here in the United States, owned and operated by Will and Chris Schmid, whom you've heard here on this show, who are IDPA shooters themselves and experienced match directors. They understand the challenges that match staff face when dealing with bad weather. So let them help you run your matches faster and smarter and make it a better experience for your safety officers and your shooters. Visit matchshark.com today. Get everything you need to be prepared for your next rainy day match. Spring's coming up, and we all know what that means. Lots of rain in the forecast for your match days. Be prepared. Visit matchshark.com and find out more about their awesome products. And we are so excited that they are a part of this show this year. Our special guest today it's finally Joey Russo from Federal Way, Washington. Welcome to the show, my friend. It's good to have you here.
Oh, and it's good to be armed Lutheran.
It's been a long time coming. Your wife was graciously agreed to be on the show as one of the early guinea pigs, and I guess it's been long enough. It's time to get you on the show, and I'm so glad that you had the time to do it. Oh, you're breaking up on me. Perfect. I think I lost you.
I'm getting on this side as well.
Yeah, it sounds like a little bit of bandwidth issue there.
All right, maybe pause recording. Let me go wired.
Yeah, that's usually the best.
All right, give me it's right here. Just laptop. There you go. That. Oh, I got a I'm connected. Hold on. Ooh. You still hear me, I assume?
Yeah.
And I want
Yep. No lag, no latency issues now.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay, yeah, I'm plugged into the wire now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it sounds.
All right.
I think we're good.
Okay. And action.
Action. Take two.
Take two.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do for a living there in Federal Way.
Oh, well, I'm a police officer with the Port of Seattle Police Department. I'm approaching 20 years in service. Prior to that, I spent 12 years active duty in the Army Infantry, and then did another 3 years in the reserves, but activated for Operation Enduring Freedom and et cetera. And uh, at the agency, I'm the range master. Been the range master for the past 7 years, and law enforcement firearms instructor for 18.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so been very fortunate to be able to channel my passion into firearms into a living. So that's kind of cool.
That is very cool. Well, thank you for your
and-
service, by the way. I don't think I've ever had a chance to tell you, and I really do appreciate it. And thank you for everything that you're doing, keeping the mean streets safe.
Well, thank you.
So, are you a Washington native? Washingtonian, is that the correct term?
Oh God, yeah, that's probably the correct term, but absolutely not. In fact, I'm one of them darn Californians who the Army brought me here in when was it? I don't know, late '90s, in '98 or '97, and just decided to stay. I pretty much written off California as far as living there when I fled in '87. Although I grew up in the Central Valley of California, and at that time it was pretty rural, a lot of orchards and everything, and that's where kind of primed the whole firearms thing. I used to roam the orchards with my pellet rifle and later a 22, that kind of thing. But yeah, I when I joined the Army in '87, I fled, and then, except for going back to visit family and shoot matches, I unfortunately don't. I don't plan on living or moving back.
Right. Got out from behind enemy lines once and for all.
Exactly.
So the interest in guns was something you developed as a kid. Was it something your parents introduced you to, or was it just playing cowboys and Indians? Or I know that's not politically correct anymore, but
what are you doing, Lloyd? What are you doing to me?
Cowboys and Native Americans. Or
there you go. It's funny. My father was more of a fisherman, but he certainly could use a firearm, and I think, and I think we still kind of have this mindset that I think he looked at it as a life skill kind of thing,
mm-hmm.
right? You should be able to ride a horse, ride a motorcycle, use a firearm safely. So to that end, I mean, he took me out and introduced me to firearms, and just kind of he continued to be kind of the fisherman thing. I started to migrate more towards firearms and hunting.
So after serving in the military, decided, all right, I've done the Army thing in real life, so it's time to do cops and robbers in real life? Or had you always had kind of an interest in becoming a police officer? Where did the interest in law enforcement come from?
It was in my background. My grandfather was actually a deputy sheriff in a county, again, kind of a rural county in California. So that kind of set that tone. And then in the Army, I came to a point where after 10 years, you're starting to be viewed as a career soldier, non-commissioned officer at that time. And it was like, well, you're kind of at this crossroads. If you're going to transition out, I need to do so while I'm still physically in one piece and all that kind of thing.
Right.
And I just made that decision because the op tempo, the deployments were just getting so crazy. It was pretty tough. So I made the decision to transition out, took books to out in the field, working on my associate's degree kind of thing, while studying out in the wood line kind of, and, trying to set that stage for success to be able to transition into civilian law enforcement.
So how did you get involved in competitive shooting? What was your first introduction?
Oh, geez. Actually, in the Army, in like 1990 or whatever, I was in Bavaria in Germany, and there was a group of us who had handguns, and we would go to the range, and as much as we could, shoot some sort of style of practical pistol shooting kind of thing. It was very rudimentary, probably more akin, even not even compared to like even ASI or anything like that. It was just very basic kind of stuff, but it was moving and using handgun, and that kind of set the tone. And then throughout my career, it's like, oh, there's IDPA is out there, and I'm kind of, oh, that'd be kind of cool to do. But it usually was, again, in the military, certainly, deployments and time wouldn't allow it. And then at least initially, in the law enforcement, my schedule would not allow me to participate.
Once you did, some time freed up for you, and like you say, you were able to get weekends free. How were you introduced to IDPA, and where was it, and what do you remember of that introduction?
Oh, geez. So that was,
and were there non-threats involved?
There's always non-threats. Yeah. So it was, so I'd been on let's see, about 2013. So been a cop about the same time, about 13 years. And I took the administrative assignment, left uniform patrol work. I was working in the city of Seattle waterfront. That's the detachment I was assigned to. Went to admin, soft skills, where I am now, and that freed up my weekends. And I was Johnny on the spot, joined IDPA, went to Paul Bunyan Rifle Club, PBRC, there in Puyallup, Washington, and went through new shooters orientation, shot my first match.
Did it? You'd been in the military for 10 years. You'd been 13 years on the force. You were a firearms instructor for much of that time. Did anything you experienced in that first IDPA match intimidate you, or were you just like, wow, this is a lot of fun, let's do that again?
Oh, no, certainly it was intimidating. And that's like another thing, like a lot of, I stress in my classes to my students, like, guys, gals, get involved in competitive shooting. This is only going to be a performance enhancer in so many different type of ways. But yeah, I mean, the raw skill was kind of there, but as everyone who's listening probably knows, there's a difference between fundamental skills. But then when we start the whole competition piece, I remember my first safety officer, Keith Sang, I was like, hey, I'm a new shooter. I'm supposed to be at the bottom. After I shot the first stage, he's like, oh no, you're in the rotation, man. I'm like, hey, come on, man. But no, it's intimidating because you are the show. I mean, when you step up, it's time to deliver. Folks are watching, or at least if they're not watching, you think they're watching. So you have that.
Right.
Stress doesn't live in the outside world, right? It only lives on the inside. Okay, so yeah, it was intimidating, but it was a good show. I mean, yeah, I don't think I hit any non-threats, Lloyd.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed. So once you'd gotten involved that first match, and were you instantly hooked and then obsessed with it, or was it like, yeah, that was fun, I'll probably do that again? How long before that became such a big part of your life, as big a part of your life as it is now?
I was definitely hooked. It was, I try to do research, online and all that stuff before I even shot the match. And I don't want to, get myself as much information ahead of time, research and stuff. And once I shot that match, I was totally down with it. I was trying to grab other folks from work, they're coppers, and say, hey, you need to come out and do this. And actually, we we had a group of folks that were doing it, and we ended up traveling around for a bit, and until people promote and move different shifts.
Right.
But yeah, no, I was sold, and absolutely.
How long after that before you decided that you wanted to try a sanction match?
I remember it clearly. It was the following year. It was 2014, and it was the Idaho State Championship.
Oh,
And myself and a deputy, Malcolm McIver, from Thurston County Sheriff's Office down south of Seattle, anyway. But anyway, he and I just we're shooting together. He's very, very skilled, and just, hey, let's go to this. And there was a group of us, both law enforcement and non-law enforcement, and we migrated over there representing Washington State, and did pretty well. And I was shooting. I think I was competing as a CDP marksman, and I
oh.
placed first, and that was my first match bump to sharpshooter. And that was,
You didn't get to play in the marksman pool very long.
yeah. Yeah, so sandbagger. Like, not a sandbagger, man. That's like, I was just running. At the time, we were actually I was carrying a 1911 on duty and everything. So I was just like kind of running the gun. And yeah, but that was my first tiered match.
Wow. So you are now a master class shooter. What did it take to get from the sandbagger at Paul Bunyan to master?
That's your terminology, Lloyd. Sandbagger. Come on.
Hey, you're the one who used it.
Oh my goodness. I consider it's more of an opportunist. How about opportunist?
There you go. I like that better. I like to think of myself as a high functioning marksman, so it's just a better way of looking at it. So what did it take to get from there to master and traveling all over the country to matches, sanctioned matches around the country and places as far flung as New York and Alabama?
Yeah. Well, no easy answer, but first thing is as far as making master in a particular division, I was early on. I don't know how to say this, but I would shoot a division, and I would, the rules were a little different then. I would shoot a division, and I would bump up, if you will. Then, okay, I'm going to go to a different division now. So I was just trying to incrementally
level everything out.
Yeah, exactly. No, and that's exactly what it was. And that's at least for me, for Joey, that was very challenging to jump platforms. Like, it started with CDP, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to shoot whatever, ESV, all these different divisions. And that is problematic. So when I finally sat down and said, okay, what is my performance goal for this season, for this year? And I'm like, okay, I want to, I'm shooting ESP, and I want to make master, and I'm going to commit to this platform. Some of that too, just maturing as far as a competitor, is also just as a shooter. I'm finally to the point, after all these years of instructing and shooting and all this kind of thing, where I'm actually really, really seeing stuff that honestly, up until maybe 4 years or so ago, I wasn't seeing. I'm seeing the whole act of when the gun goes off, and then my eyes are capturing stuff that I before, I'm not seeing. Obviously, I'm blinking or whatever, but now through the years, I've become desensitized to this kind of thing, and it's kind of a bum deal though, because this is the whole thing. This is like wisdom, right? But meanwhile, the rest of the body is like, okay, you get wise, but you're also getting older. But whatever. But so. Yeah, to make a master, it was picking for me. It was picking the platform, and certainly evolving as a competitor. And it's again, everyone knows that games and plays this, competes in IDPA. So much is non-shooting action, and that is the big. I mean, there's obviously you got to have those fundamental skills and all that kind of stuff as far as shooting, but then it really becomes the difference between these shooters are the non-shooting stuff. stage management,
Right.
how I move, all that, all that kind of stuff.
What's share a fun story from your travels around the country, a match or a stage or just something fun that's happened over the last 4 years of your whirlwind tour in IDPA.
I can't. Anytime I think of a stage, and actually driving home in our terrible Seattle traffic, I was thinking about this today. I was like, as soon as I think of a stage, there's one thing that comes to mind, and I don't remember the year, but I remember the look. I know it was up in Crescent, right? Silver Dollar.
Mm-hmm. No,
and
Silver Dollar would that have been Wichita Falls?
Wichita Falls. I'm sorry, and it was the spin cycle. I think that something that was the title in there. This moving target array was absolutely out of control, and to date, I have not experienced anything like it. But the problem, why is this so memorable? Because at that point in time, in my evolving as a competitive shooter, long story short, I ended up putting like nearly 2 mags at this thing, 2 magazines, Lloyd, out of my 3 into this array, this moving array of targets. In retrospect, of course, I would have handled it differently now, but that stage forever just like, oh my goodness. And I've never seen another moving kind of weird elliptical movement of multiple target array. And I think it was they call it the spin cyclers, and an aptly named, but that stage resonates. Absolutely.
When you encounter something like that, how do you approach it in the aftermath? Do you just sort of file it away and say, well, that was a disaster, and just move on? Or does that make you start to think about, there's something I've got to improve on in case I run into that again? Because you never know.
Oh God, yeah. Hopefully they don't hear this and go, you know what? We need to bring that back.
Bring that bad boy
I would
back.
like another shot at it. I really would. But again, back to that question, that's that whole evolving or maturity as a competitor. I mean, yeah, when I encountered it back then, it totally weighed heavy on my mind. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe, I dumped 2 mags at this thing and I was still down. And besides being down points, think about all the time I wasted and just, but again, as you evolve or mature, and now when I hit those kind of stages, certainly now it's at the time, I just have to move on. I can't dwell on that.
Yep.
But I certainly make an earmark. Sometimes I'll even make a note in a little book, my little notepad, and be like, hey, I need to look at this, and even go further in that, looking at results of, as far as various, shooters on a particular stage, and start seeing. And that's the advantage of video as well. I'm looking at that and going, okay, my transition, that was horrible. The gun wasn't up, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And certainly you're just constantly learning and going, where could I save some time?
Right.
And yeah.
What do you think over these years in IDPA is the most important thing you've learned that's helped you get to master? Is it the stage planning? Is it the after action analysis? Is it the being able to sort of analyze video, or is it knowing how to practice? What is it? What's the most important lesson that's come out of IDPA as you've grown from opportunist to master?
Opportunist. I was going to say, in answering, I'd be like, yes, all the above. For me personally, most importantly, and again, for me, it was the fundamental skills were there. I mean, long background, all that kind of stuff,
Right.
My shooting background. So that was there. For me, it was these non-shooting actions. When I look at a stage now, just a process. When I look at something now, it's just a total different way of thinking. It's all problem solving with a gun. I'm always looking, for example, what I call them, where's my twofers? what can I do? I got to do two things at once. That's my goal at least, right?
Right.
Optimally, I'm always looking for the two first. What can I do? Am I loading and moving? Am I whatever? I mean, where's the two first? Hey, how many targets can I engage from a single position? It's all about efficiency. For me, it was not, the fundamental marksmanship skills and gun handling were always there. What allowed me to progress was the stage, negotiating the stage more efficiently.
Gotcha. Now you, when you first encountered IDPA, you said you'd been on the force for like 13 years at that point. So you'd been instructing for 10, probably 10 plus.
Yeah, I joined the law enforcement cadre, firearms cadre. That would have been, yeah. So by then it was about 11. I'd been 11 years a law enforcement firearms instructor at that point.
Gotcha. So how has your experience in IDPA affected your role as an instructor, or your skills as an instructor, maybe vice versa? How has your experience on the mean streets of Seattle and as a firearms instructor, how have those experiences translated into your performance in IDPA?
Oh, and absolutely, like it flows back and forth on so many different levels. This is a performance enhancer. I mean, at the individual level, we've talked about, right? And everybody kind of gets that. This is problem solving with the gun. This is being able to move efficiently through different type of confined areas or whatever the demands are. The fact that you're moving probably somewhat dynamically through your environment, that is going to help you in so many ways on the job, and obviously in competition as well. So certainly flows back and forth as far as that's that individual development as an instructor. And then why I stress with my students I teach mostly instructor level type classes. My students, I tell them we embrace a methodology of teaching where we explain, we demonstrate, and then we have the students imitate, practice, whatever. So demoing as an instructor is crucial, right? Because you got to establish credibility and all this kind of thing. Many of my student instructors are just very, very have a lot of anxiety when it comes time to demonstrate in front of the class, explain what it's all about. Hey, this is what we're going to do. This is why. This is da 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 da. And now let me go ahead and show this. Let me show you this.
Right.
And oh my goodness, boy, the stammering, the stuttering. It's like, and I tell them, hey, and this is why you need to compete, because you will get over that really quick. Because like I said earlier, whether it's true or not, and it's probably not, but maybe it is. When you step up in your squad or whatever, and it's time for you to do your work, shoot a stage, you're gonna get used to the fact that people are gonna be watching. At least there's an SO and a scorekeeper or assistant SO watching. At least there's a couple of people watching you.
Yep.
So you soon become like, this is no big deal. No big deal at all. I can, as an instructor, it helps in that regard when it comes to getting in front of students and doing the demonstrations and just having that ease. And that being able to, as I call, true talent being able to perform on demand. And that's what this is about, whether it's on a stage, an IDPA, or whether it's in front of a group of students and you're having to demonstrate something.
Very cool. I hadn't thought about that. That's really cool. It help you get over that stage fright. You and your wife, who was a guest on the show previously, you guys travel around and you get to shoot together. Talk about the experience of sharing that you're shooting careers together and share a story from a fun trip that you guys took together and aside from the shooting experience or the match itself, what was fun?
Oh, yeah, that's getting Jackie, who herself, is a retired police sergeant. I always said she was my favorite sergeant, right, when she was on the job. getting her involved in IDPA and having this shared passion, if you will, to compete. It's that has truly been just an awesome thing. Jackie was one of the few females we had go through our state SWAT basics. She was on our SWAT team and all this kind of stuff. So she had a background she didn't like talk about and everything. As far as she always was a pretty strong shooter. So just being able to share that stuff. As far as travels, oh my goodness, boy, there's been usually it doesn't have to. A lot of the adventure is just getting there, or sometimes getting out. Getting out. As far as getting out from the location, flying out. Since my headquarters is at the airport, so I kind of know everybody. So that tends to be no big deal. But getting out of certain locations, and we're flying because we're traveling with guns and all that kind of stuff, and that can be interesting. I don't know what it is, and Arizona is that is really a firearm state. Everyone, but I don't know what it is, but trying to get out of Sky Harbor, I've gone through security, everything's good to go. Okay, great. At the gate, waiting, for the plane or whatever, and it's attention in the terminal, Mr. Russo, can you return to? And I'm like, you mean I got to exit, go talk to these guys, and then come back through security? And it's like, oh, so there's been all sorts of those kind of things related to that. Probably the absolute worst. But Jackie and I, you mentioned New York, so we actually flew into New Jersey. I have a friend who was in the Army. He was actually my platoon leader and all this kind of stuff.
That's any better.
Oh yeah. So we fly in. So first off, it starts with the rental car. So I go to get my rental car, and this car is like it's like from Escape from New York. It is dinged, it is battered. I'm like, oh my God, cracked windshield. I'm like, all right, this thing has been through the ringer, right? It's just like my first car, my 73 Dodge Dart was in better condition than this thing. But I'm like, okay, well, you know what? It's bumper to bumper coverage. I don't have to worry about any sort of pre-existing damage. So we get in this thing, and then we're having to literally cut through the city. That's New York City. Okay. Man, I've never experienced driving or traffic like this. This was just absolutely just crazy hours and hours through this tunnel and that tunnel and beep, beep, and it's just, there's like no lanes. It was absolutely crazy. Just absolutely crazy.
In a beat up car with guns.
Yeah. It was just absolutely crazy. So a lot of the adventures we have are related to the travel itself and getting there and everything. To your credit, that was a beautiful range and all that kind of stuff, and it was a great match. And a lot of people were kind of surprised, like, "Oh, how did that?" Actually, the flying part was not an issue. It's just the traveling right. that could be challenging.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you guys traveled to Talladega last year for the World Championship, and it was not exactly the best of weather. But you guys are from Seattle.
I know where this is going, Lloyd.
So does that become? Do you when you travel, are you hoping you're going to get better weather because you're not shooting in Washington, or when you get there, is it like, okay, well, it's just another rainy match? Everybody else, us Southerners who can't stand cold weather and rain, does it affect you guys differently? Is it just, well, okay, here's another rainy day, or is it a bother just like for the rest of us?
We have a term for that. We call it the Washington sunshine. So
we
yeah,
were
you
definitely.
Yeah. Hey, and Sergeant Bill and Mrs. Sergeant Bill Cat there just gives us the business when we're like, oh, don't you be bringing your Washington sunshine? And it gives me a complex because I swear, and it's like, We have actually left good weather here in the Seattle area. And for example, I flew down to Arizona of all places, and it's raining and cold. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Back home, the weather's nice. And why is this following us? It's just like, but certainly, yeah. I mean, we feel like everyone else, but we get we're shooting this Saturday local match, and it's apt to be rainy and somewhat cold. You just kind of get used to it.
Always pack the wet weather gear.
You got a Gore-Tex. Always have a Gore-Tex. Always. Even in July.
Right. So what is it about IDPA that you like so much that keeps you going and keeps you mentioned that you tried the other sport that shall not be named,
shall not be named.
Right, that requires the slide rule to figure out the scoring. What is it about little dig there? Sorry for those of you who like the other sport. Yeah, I'm sure that hurt really bad. Why is it a IDPA fun for you? What is it that you love about it so much that I know it's not just I'm making fun, but I know it's not just the math and the differences and the simple scoring, but what is it about IDPA that keeps you doing it as opposed to, because a lot of times shooters get to your level, they get to master, and they think, okay, I've done it, I've been there, done that, I'm moving on, and they go looking for a pure shooting challenge like that other sport. What is it about IDPA that keeps you doing it as opposed to moving on to the other sport?
Well, harkening back, I mean, on a professional level, again, I think there is more applicability to my professional life as far as, which is, it's a professional arms and all that kind of stuff, right? IDPA is a better fit in that regard on a professional level. Certainly then on a personal level, again, this is something I share with, my best friend and my wife, that's Jackie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's that personal piece. So that's why IDPA in a professional side, I think it better relates to what I do for a living. And that's a good thing. I'm getting all that kind of experience helps me out professionally. And then personally, I'm doing something I really enjoy and sharing that with Jackie, with my wife.
Very cool. Well, Joey, I am so glad that you finally got a chance to get. I cannot believe I waited this long to have you on the show. It's been great to, and this is one of the great joys and blessings of this show is, you and I have shot together a number of times, and we have, and we won't talk about how terrible my performances were on those occasions.
Oh, Lloyd, you're so modest.
But we have so much, but we have a lot of fun. But we never get a chance to do this and sit down one-on-one and get to know each other, talk a little bit. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this, and I'm looking forward to seeing you here in Texas. Not long from now, I don't think, right?
No, thanks for having me on. Hey, before I let you go, though, I gotta extend the offer. You need to come out and shoot our Washington State Championship.
Absolutely.
Come on out.
All right, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your support. Thank you to our guest for coming on the show. And thank you to our awesome sponsor, Match Shark, for making this entire season possible. If you would, please take a minute to check out our website, Unload Podcast. Lots of cool previous episodes are there, links to all sorts of great information. Just check out the guest list as well. Join the Facebook group, too, if you want to connect with other fans and get updates on the latest news. You can find that at unloadpodcast.com/Facebook. Check out our YouTube channel. We've got a lot of cool videos there at unloadpodcast.com/YouTube. And if you'd like to support the show personally, consider becoming a patron, just $1 a month at patreon.com/unload. And for your support, I'll send you out a sticker and you'll have my undying gratitude for your help. If you or someone you know would make an interesting guest for a future episode, you can contact me at unloadpodcast.com. just go to the contact button in the menu at the top of the page and send me a message. Or you can send me an email at Lloyd, Lloyd, at unloadpodcast.com. Tune in again next Thursday for another episode of Unload and Show Clear, powered by Match Shark. We are a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. Be sure to check out all of the other pro-freedom podcasts at selfdefenseradio.net.